Hey, how's everybody doing out there? This is JC, and I'm hanging out with the guy who has on his, does that say, what does that cap say, Ray? Does that say Trump? I can't see I'm on my
Trump
iPad.
2020.
So Trump 2020.
Yes, sir.
So we've got Ray joining us today. You said that today was a great day. For those who don't know who you are, although I think probably most people watching this know who you are, tell the folks a little bit about you, who you are, and why you felt today. Give a little background on what exactly happened today, and also why you felt today was a good day.
Oh, it was a great day. Well, my name is Ray, Ray Verwys. Many of the listeners know me as Ray Anthony. I live here in Jenison, Michigan, over just south of Grand Rapids, of course. Long-time political junkie, I guess. Former Kentwood City Commissioner, former delegate, Republican delegate to the state convention. In today was great. Today, our president, Donald Trump, was in Muskegon, as many people know. That was a lot of fun. I've not yet been to a Trump rally, or as they often call them, peaceful protests. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a great time.
So what stood out, in your opinion? What stood out that regarding the experience, just overall, or something that the president might have said? What stood out, in your opinion, about today?
Well, I think, of course, it was at Muskegon County Airport, if I'm not mistaken. That's what they call it there in Norton Shores. What stood out about the rally? Rallies should always be this way. Holy cow! Outdoors, with the president and Air Force One landing basically right in front of you, taxiing around and coming back and parking right there where everybody can see the Air Force One, like you're parking in to go to Meijer. And off comes there are various people off of the plane, but then eventually here comes the president, and what an entrance! What a way to make an entrance! It was absolutely incredible, right on time as well. With I don't know how many people were there exactly. I think the airport at one time said that they were looking at upwards of 10,000 people. The way it was set up, I don't think you could have put 10,000 people in where exactly it was, the way everything was set up. But there were several thousand people there, just having a good time. Trump rallies are just, all rallies, to be honest, are people showing up in support of that candidate, in this case, the president of the United States. So they're love fests is what they are. You're there supporting your president or your candidate, whichever, and it's just a bunch of people cheering and enjoying the president. The president absolutely enjoys these. Everybody knows the president enjoys doing rallies and being out there in front of his base. So it's just fun. As far as the experience goes, that's definitely the way it was. It's great.
So I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
But before we go any further, is the president going to win re-election, Ray, in your opinion? What do you think? What's your honest take on whether or not Donald John Trump is going to win the election in just a few days, essentially?
So, yeah, I do. I believe he is. And part of the reason I think of that is because I look at, the polls over the last couple, I want to say 2, 3 or more elections have been showing themselves to be inaccurate at best, is the best way to put it. This time 4 years ago, most people believed that Hillary Clinton was going to become president of the United States. The polls are not very different from then to now, and I think that there are so many. In this year, it's very interesting because this year, every year, you have this push to get people registered to vote. And in previous years, I've found that it's usually that push is oftentimes more on the left. the Democrats out there trying to get people registered to vote. Get the vote out is usually something on that side of the aisle. In this case, many of these states that have record numbers of new voters, the Republican Party is registering a lot more people than the Democratic Party is. And that's impressive. And that means that there's so many new voters. They're not necessarily people who are part of this polling. And so I believe the president, and honestly, when you look at the rallies, when you look at the people that come out in his support, and you look at Joe Biden and who comes out to support him, it is so few, even when it's not necessarily a social distance issue. It's just nobody shows up. And because the excitement isn't there, I think they did a really bad job of picking their candidate. I think there probably were better choices. He's just not the right guy, I don't think.
No, you do know that most of Americans disagree with you. Most of Americans don't believe that Donald John Trump is the right man to be president. You do know that.
Depending on what poll you look at, sure.
Well, most of the polls, including Fox News, has Biden ahead and beyond the point of error, the margin of error. And no president in modern history, the current president, has been reelected with these particular numbers. No incumbent has won reelection with the current numbers. And I know that polls are just polls, but polls typically tend to be pretty accurate. And
not 4 years ago.
Well, there was something called a little investigation, or there was the FBI director Comey making an announcement just weeks before an election regarding Hillary Clinton's emails that were found on her assistant's computer when the husband was under investigation, a guy over in New York. His name escapes me. So you don't think that had anything to do with it? Some people were saying that the president was going to have the October surprise. Well, some people in his camp, he actually said it himself. I don't know if he worded it as such, but there has been no October surprise. Of course, the investigation, or I don't know if it's considered an investigation, but the guy, Barr, said there won't be any announcement made before the election. So you don't think any of that had anything to do with Hillary Clinton in the last election, even though she won the popular vote?
Well, popular vote, of course, is always, and as it should be, that's not relevant. We don't vote for president in that way. We vote for president using the Electoral College. So popular vote is what it is. But no, I think everything, there's a lot of factors that can be a part of things. But I think, as in many elections, with absentee ballot voting and everything, a lot of people had already voted by the time Comey had said that. But still,
Most people had not voted. Most people vote on election day. Yeah, overwhelmingly, the majority of people vote on election day. Overwhelmingly.
Sure.
But my next.
Sure. No, I think it could have been a factor. I mean, there's always factors out there. Whether or not the media chooses to latch onto them or not is a lot to do with it. There's a factor right now where we're still talking about Hunter Biden and whether or not Joe Biden's lying to us, because it appears that his emails to Hunter Biden say the opposite and the other. So there's things out there. Hold on a second.
Sure. You do know that those emails have not been confirmed to be real emails. You do know that. You do know that nobody's been able to substantiate that those are actual emails, right?
I know that a lot of things get out there, and whether or not they're true or not, they get out. And just like with the Russian conspiracy, it was all nonsense, and it turns out now that Hillary Clinton was a big push of that. Well, it's true. It was nonsense.
There was no Russian.
Nonsense.
JC. Hold on. I read that. Hold on.
Because it was nonsense.
Hold on, Ray. Hold
on.
Straight
out. There's no way around it.
Ray, I read the Mueller report page by page. Did you read it?
I did, actually. Thank you.
Okay. Then there was no conspiracy. There was no Russian hoax. It was a real thing. But moving on,
The truth was there was no connection. There was no connection to the Trump campaign being in cahoots with Russia. That's what the investigation was really about, and it proved not to be true.
No. You stand corrected. What Mueller said was that he could. What Mueller said was that he couldn't prove that, and Mueller also said that he couldn't prove it, and he also said that the president he did not feel was all that forthcoming, and that the president did not, and read it. The president was not very cooperative. Yeah, read it. That's
so what? Mueller, I know they said that. I know that was his opinion. Said. Yeah, right. That was his opinion. You're right.
That was the investigator. That's who said that.
Right. And if the investigator had been able to prove that Trump had done something wrong, then he would have, but he couldn't.
Well, Ray, you need to go back and read the report. You need to go back and read the report.
Even you just said, Ray, JC, that Mueller said that he couldn't prove it.
He couldn't prove it. But he said
which is what is required.
But let's not talk over each other. But he also said, quote, that his comments did not exonerate the president. Did he not say that?
Yeah, but that's what investigations do, JC.
Well,
that's exactly. He said something that was not even needed to be said.
No, Ray, that sounds ridiculous. But let's move on.
No, it's not ridiculous.
Let's move on. If I'm investigating you, Ray, and I cannot say without a doubt that my investigation exonerated you, then I would say that my investigation did not prove this, but my investigation also did not fully exonerate you.
And that was not the purpose of the investigation.
Yes.
The purpose of the investigation was to determine whether or not to prove that something had happened in that fashion. The investigation was not able to do that, and so therefore they move on. And he wasn't able to do it. Mueller was not out to figure out and to exonerate Trump. That's not what the point of the investigation was.
Absolutely, you're right. The investigation was what it was that he was supposed to investigate. And if you read the report, you know fully well that report was problematic. You know fully well that report was very much problematic. But moving on about the rally today, is there anything that the president said that stuck out in your mind? Is there anything that you feel that he said that you said, wow, this was amazing? You got the jitters, you got all tingly, and you said, wow, that was great. Is there anything that the president said today that you really connected with?
Well, he talks about something that I think he needs to talk more about, which is the incredible job he's done with the economy, with unemployment, with everything else prior to the virus coming out of China. And that was an incredible economy, low unemployment numbers for every group across the board, and the stock market doing great, and all of these things which were doing incredible before this pandemic. And I think he needs to talk more about that. And the fact that the economy is coming back and the third quarter numbers are going to be out just before the election. Those are expected to be very strong. So I think he needs to focus a lot on that. And he likes to talk about a lot of things, and I enjoy most of it. But really, I think that in terms of talking to voters, because the Gallup poll came out today, if I'm not mistaken, showing 56% of those polled believe that they're better off now than they were 4 years ago. And so he did mention that, and I think he needs to focus on that a little bit more if he's trying to pick people up. A lot of these rallies, he's enjoying the crowd, and the crowd's enjoying him, and they're saying things that get them excited. But really, I think if he's still trying to pick up voters that haven't decided yet, I think he needs to talk about how incredible things have been over the last 4 years prior to the virus.
I noticed that he mentioned too the automobile industry in Michigan.
Yes.
Yeah, he mentioned that and
yes,
applauded that and his involvement with that. Do you recall what he said in 2015 about the Michigan automobile industry by chance?
Well, I don't have that on me, John, but go ahead.
No, that's why I asked you, did you recall? That was a question.
I don't.
So,
not offhand.
Okay, fair enough. Well, he said that Obama should have let them go bankrupt. That's what he said. Yeah, he said that Obama should have let them go bankrupt.
Going through bankruptcy would have been another way to go. And actually, we probably would be at the exact same spot as we are now. Yeah, I don't believe that by any means that General Motors and Ford would be non-existent today. I think that's an absolute farce to believe that the only way they could have done it is by being bailed out. They could have gone through a bankruptcy, which is what bankruptcy is for, to protect, to make sure that they still exist and they move on. And
I know what bankruptcy. I know what bankruptcy is. I just asked you, did you recall? So, is there anything that the president has said or done, Ray, that you find problematic? Is there anything about the president at all that you have a problem with, that you struggle with supporting him because of it?
Sure.
What are some of those things?
Oh, if I could pick and choose and say, hey, I wish you hadn't said this or wish you hadn't said that. I mean, the guy does just go off the top of his head and say things that are on his mind at the moment, in ways I wouldn't have said them. I wouldn't back before he was elected during the primaries. I thought for sure he was done when he criticized John McCain the way he did. I wouldn't have criticized John McCain that way. I believed, I was talking with a friend about the election, and I heard that on the radio. I was like, really? Did he just say that? And I would have for sure. That's something I wish he hadn't said. There's been things along the way.
Is there anything currently that is in the current news cycle that bothers you about the president? For example, taxes. For example,
let's talk about taxes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find?
That's cool.
Yeah. My question is, do you find that problematic? The whole tax situation. Do you find? Are you totally comfortable and okay with this mystery tax situation? Well, some don't believe that it's a mystery because there have been leaks regarding his taxes. Obviously, I'm sure you read the New York Times story in detail. I did. But do you find that problematic at all?
The reason I find where and how a person like Donald Trump, who is a real estate developer, the reason I find it problematic when in terms of the general public and their view of it is due to a lack of understanding as to what he does and how the taxes come out that way. So I do find that problematic.
My question was to you. My question to you was, do you find any of that regarding him and his taxes, et cetera? Do you find any of that problematic? My question was not about the public. My question was about you. Do you find any of that problematic?
No, absolutely not. And I'll explain why. Prior to that information coming out over the last couple of years, I've been learning more about, personally, for my own personal purposes, been learning more about commercial real estate and taxes and how they work and loans and everything related. So in an effort to do that, I learned about depreciation, which is a very cool thing. You can buy a piece of property, and even if you just own it.
Yeah.
Please. No. Okay. Do you really want to hear what I have to say, JC?
No, but I don't want a 10-minute explanation of you.
It doesn't take 10 minutes.
What you've learned about taxes.
You cut me off after 30 seconds, but
no.
But yeah, so there's no 10 minutes. But regardless of anything, no, because once I understand how taxes work when you're a real estate developer and you own commercial property, that is how it works. If you do what the government wants you to do in terms of what you own and how you own it, you get tax credits and tax breaks for doing it. It is absolutely the way it works, and it's the way it should work. His ability, and actually it was incorrect anyway. He paid millions of dollars in taxes over those 2 years, but he actually only owed the $750. So the $750 they're talking about in those two particular years was a correct number in terms of what he actually owed in taxes. He paid a lot more in those years, but he actually only owed that much, and that's because of depreciation.
Hey Ray, let me ask you a quick question. I would love to see some proof of the fact that he paid millions of dollars in taxes those 2 years. I don't know where you got that, but I would love for you to share that if you could. Not right now, because we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes, but I would love for you to share that, since you seem to be certain that he paid millions of dollars in taxes those 2 years. Ray, is there anything that the president could do that would cause you not to support him? Because I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you what I feel. I'm going to tell you what I
Sure.
feel, and I could be totally wrong. And I never felt this way as it relates to you, but I feel like, because I asked you that same question in 2016. I wrote the question down. I don't have the
Mhm.
question on me. Paul called me a short time ago and said, but I kept it because I asked you at that time, was there anything that the president could do to cause you not to support him? And I'm going to find it. And hopefully we'll be able to have another conversation. But you answered me, and since that time, that actually has happened. But
Oh,
but I'm not going to go off the top of my head. But I'm letting
sure.
you know that if I say it, it's true. I'm not putting it out there and it not be true. That's changed. That position that you had then has changed. I'm going to ask you
Oh,
again. I know Paul is recording this. Is there
okay.
anything that the president could do to cause you to not support the president? Or is it just, Ray, that you're just red no matter what? Because for most Americans, the taxes are a problem. And this whole I'll release my taxes after my audit is done. You and I both know that an audit has nothing to do with what you do with your taxes. I said this back in 2015 and 2016, and I've said it repeatedly since then. I could be under audit, but still, if I want to go show my taxes to the people on the corner down the street, that would be my prerogative to do so. An audit has nothing at all whatsoever to do with me sharing my taxes. That's my choice. So we know that that's not true. Um, the whole Russia thing, the whole Ukraine thing, the tons and tons of Republicans who have pretty much given their whole life of service to the Republican Party, et cetera, that have come out and said, you know what, I cannot support this guy. There are lots of things that lots of people have a problem with as it relates to the president of the United States. And I've said, and I've done video, and I've said, if he were a Democrat, if he were an independent, if he were a libertarian, if he was my daddy, and if I had a problem with him, I would say so. Doesn't matter to me what his party affiliation is. So I'm going to ask you that question in closing. Is there anything that the president could do, Ray, to cause you to fall out of support of him? Or is it really, at the end of the day, just a red thing for you?
Hmm. I don't know if you got caught shooting someone in the street. I can imagine that would change it for me. I don't know offhand something I can picture him doing that would cause that exactly. I'm trying to picture anything that I would actually consider that to be the case, based on what I know of him now and where he stands as having been president of the United States.
Let
I
me
don't
ask you a
know.
question. Let me
I'm
ask
not
you a
sure.
question then. Let me ask you a question.
Hmm?
Let me pose it this way. If a Democratic president had done the things, let's say the same scenario, identically, you would be okay with it? You wouldn't
What
complain? You
scenario are we talking
wouldn't?
about?
All the scenarios that I just mentioned, the taxes and saying
I don't
things
think
like,
I don't think the president of the United States has to disclose his taxes. I think that's an absolute um, fallacy that he has to do that. Number one. Number two, his taxes as they are even if those illegally leaked taxes are actually accurate, even if they were, even if he only literally paid $750 for those 2 years, if he did it in a way that's legal, which is what real estate developers do, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. Our tax system is set up in a way for that to happen if you're doing exactly what the government wants you to do with your properties. And so I don't find that to be in any way wrong. So I wouldn't have a problem with anybody doing that.
Okay. Would you, if you found out that the president actually is beholden to Russia or some other somebody, because he's working very hard to prevent his taxes from being released. He's all the way to Supreme Court. I mean, that's working real hard to prove a point. So let's say we find out that he does, in fact, owe hundreds of millions of dollars to a foreign entity who has not been our friend in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Russia is not a friend of America. Period. There is no disputing that. Nobody disputes that. At least nobody that I know of as it relates to our intelligence community. So if you do find out, Ray, that he in fact is beholden to some foreign entity, would that cause you to not support the president any further?
If something were to happen where I believed the information actually showed that, and I believe that to be the case, then I wouldn't have no problem saying that I don't support him. But by no means I don't think there's anything out there like that. I think the Mueller report didn't show that. I don't think there's anything that does. No, I don't think that there's anything that shows that he is beholden to another entity that's not friendly to the United States. Do I think real estate people who do things all over the world have loans and owe money here and there? Absolutely. Robert Kiyosaki, who's someone I know I've been listening to for some time now, talks about how debt is actually a positive thing because you make money off of debt. So real estate developers often have millions of dollars in debt. People shouldn't be surprised by that. So no, I think
the difference here is we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars in debt that the president of the United States possibly has. The people, Beverly Martin says she doesn't go with personally. She says she goes with policy. Well, policies, if a president of the United States owes millions of dollars to somebody, his employers have a right to know that. The president and any other elected official works for the people. So the guy that you just mentioned, whom I'm a fan of, I've read his books. He wrote one with president about 15 years ago. The name escapes me right now, but I read that book as well. But
as have I.
That's different. That's a businessman who has that going on. That's different. But the president of the United States, it's a whole different ballgame. Do you not acknowledge that's different? You can't compare the president to a businessman, and we know that's his business. But we're talking about somebody who deals with policy. We're talking about the president of the United States. His employers, us the people, have a right to know who the president owes. He's the president. He works for us.
Okay, are we good? Can I talk? All right. So, no, I don't think the debts that the president of the United States had as a businessman coming into...
There was a part. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I think the debt the president of the United States as a businessman had coming in to 2016, which is really what we're talking about, because there's no business dealings he's doing right now. He's separated himself from.
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah. All right. Sure. Whatever. I mean, that's how it works, right? You didn't interrupt me, but you laugh at me. That's okay. In the end, I don't believe the president of the United States has to submit his tax returns. I don't. He submitted before becoming president, he submitted stacks of documents about his business dealings. Lots and lots and lots, showing all kinds what he's done in the past of business and everything else. He has not submitted his tax returns. Fine. And I don't think he's going to have to. I think he's going to be reelected without having to submit them, and he's never going to have to. Supreme Court's never going to force him to. And people can, wring their hands over it and all this stuff if they want to. But in the end, I don't think it's going to matter whether or not he submits his tax returns. I just don't.
Yeah, well, my question was to you specifically. We know that he got elected without releasing them, but my question was to you and whether or not you found it problematic. So you do not.
No.
And I respect that. But a lot of people do. And
Sure.
I think that that's part of, I feel that is part of one of his problems. Do you feel that the president has run a smart campaign, Ray? This
campaign
go around, do you
itself?
think the campaign itself?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's had quite a great campaign. I mean, he's doing what he does best, which is get out and see the people and put together these rallies. That's his strong suit. Getting his base rolling. As if I know anything, but if he was truly going to listen to me, which would be hilarious. There are things I would do. I would say you need to focus on this or stop focusing on that so much. Anybody can do that. Go here or don't go there. I don't know. There's probably things that I could pick apart, but overall, I think he's ran a great campaign, and certainly better than his opponent. And I hope that shines through in the election.
Does racism exist in America, Ray?
Absolutely.
What about COVID?
Does COVID exist? Yes.
Yeah. Does COVID? Do you feel that COVID has in any way been some sort of hoax or created to? I read on social media the other day, somebody said that it was created to unseat the president. Do you believe in any of those conspiracies at all?
I don't believe that COVID itself is a conspiracy. I don't know if we'll ever learn the actual how it was whether it was deliberate or an accident that it was released. I don't know if we'll ever know that. But I don't think COVID itself is a conspiracy. I think that some of the reactions to it and some of the ways that we use it, people do use it, I believe. I think that it's a very political thing. If you look at the difference between Michigan and even Wisconsin, our fairly close neighbor there, reactions and how long they've been going mask free in that one state or another versus us, and you see that it's not that big a difference. And I think that things do get used in a very political fashion. I believe for all day long that our governor is using COVID in a political fashion. I think that happens. Do I think that there's some vast conspiracy everybody's getting together to? No, not necessarily. No, I don't. That's silly. COVID exists. COVID is definitely out there. I think that the concept of what it takes to get it and whether or not a mask has any value, I think that's a huge discussion that I'm on one side of that other people are not. But beyond that, no, it exists. I don't think that itself is a conspiracy.
What reason, in your opinion, would the governor of Michigan politicize COVID? What reason, in your mind, is the governor doing that, as you say?
I think that she is enjoying the power that she believes that she has. I believe that she initially was hoping to be the Democratic vice presidential nominee. And then I also believe that once politicians grab a hold of something and go a certain direction, it is very difficult for them to change their course. And I know that she does things in a political way because she'll get everything she needs from the federal government, and then and then criticize the president and say that it hasn't been happening fast enough. She makes our children wear masks while playing sports, which she's only one of 2 states that are doing that. It is absolutely insane. But I think it can be used in a political way. I don't know what her political goal is right now at this moment with it. Not in her head. I don't have an answer. But I do know that a lot of the things she's doing, she doesn't have to do. And she's pushing forward with things that are unnecessary. And that's unfortunate.
So what would you say to people who say the same thing about the president, that he's done a lot of things that he didn't have to do? People say the same thing. People say the same thing about the president. I guess my question was, and I guess you answered it. Why is it that she's making it political? In your opinion, you said that the governor of Michigan is doing that, and you brought up the fact that she thought she was going to be the Democratic vice president nominee. How do you know that? Where'd you get that, Ray?
Oh, I believe more than once it was stated in the public square, including through Joe Biden's campaign, that she was on the short list.
No, you said she thought that she was going to be. I was asking, how do you know that she thought that?
Well, I guess she would have to think it, since it was out there and she'd had meetings with Joe Biden and she was on the short list for that purpose. So you're right. She didn't tell me herself that was the case, but there's no way she couldn't have thought that unless she was told long ahead of time that she was never going to be the one. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I just wondered how you knew that she thought
that. Clearly,
yeah,
I don't. All. Clearly, I don't have I didn't have a conversation with the governor. So
okay, well, I didn't know if maybe you read it or she did an interview or something, because you seem to be pretty certain that that's what she thought. I just wondered, how did you know that? Maybe I had missed that.
Sure.
Have you ever voted for a Democrat, Ray, in the presidential election? Have you ever voted Democrat
in a presidential election? No.
Okay.
No.
So you've always believed that the Republican nominee in every election that you voted in, you've always believed that the Republican nominee was the best candidate?
Yes, I've been. The first time I voted, ever since my first vote was in, 90. Gosh, it would have been Clinton versus Dole. Yeah, I believe that's the case. Clinton's reelection. Definitely believe that Bob Dole was. I never believed that Bill Clinton was a positive someone I would ever see myself voting for. Followed up by everyone after. Yeah, I can't think of a president or a presidential nominee in my time of voting that I would have cast a vote for.
Okay. What are your current thoughts on Romney?
Mitt Romney right now, I've never, it's hard to go about Mitt Romney sometimes. I think he bounces around so much. His criticisms of the president along the way, I've taken issue with. Right now, I think he's doing the right thing at the moment, which is realizing the constitutional powers of the president of the United States in relationship to nominees to the Supreme Court. And he's if I'm not mistaken, he has said that he will vote to confirm Amy Coney Barrett. But at the time, Mitt Romney, I really believed, and I still believe, he would have been a better president than Obama was, but never been my favorite guy. But at the moment, I think he was a better choice.
So you knew where I was going with that, huh?
Sure.
You knew exactly where I was going with that.
Good absolutely.
Stuff. Hey, Ray, is there anything that you want to say in closing? And by the way, I watched the president's speech today. There were several things that the president said that were not true at the rally. Do you have a problem, before we close? Do you have a problem with the things that the president says that are just factually not true? Is it okay? Is it okay to lie repeatedly? Or is it just because some of the policies or some of the things you are okay with those things, so you disregard it? Because we're not going to we're not going to sit here and act. You're a very intelligent man. You know that the president has said a lot of stuff that is just easily disprovable. It's easy to say, you know what, that's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay with that? What about you? You have kids, you
Mm-hmm.
have sons. What do you teach your sons as it relates to being a person of honor and integrity, etc.?
What do I teach my children? I teach my children to be honorable and to have integrity and not lie. Of course, I do. Yes. And your initial question in relationship to that, first off, I fully admit that, when I watch a Trump rally, and I was there today. Obviously, we're talking about it. And for instance, he criticizes the governor and says that we're all on lockdown, but her husband's the only one who can go sailing. Clearly, that's not completely true. In fact, we're not really on lockdown.
Correct.
And
Correct.
Some of our schools are closed, and he wants us to open up our schools. That's an individual case by case basis with these school districts. But no, and so yes, and he's referring to,
it's
of
up
course,
to the schools.
We all
It's
know
up
the
to the
story
schools.
about. We all know her story. Hit the story about the governor's husband in Traverse City. Okay, related to the boat, and that's all he's referring to, and he's making an overreaching statement in relationship to that. So when things like with that come up, I understand what he's doing. I smile, and I go, well, yeah, I know that's not completely what's going on, but yes, I get it. And he's just talking to his base and getting them, and they all know it too. They know that we're clearly not completely on lockdown here in the state of Michigan. But
no, they don't. They don't all, Ray. They know you know it, but they don't all know it. The president ran. The president. I know, Ray. I know. You would think, duh. I know, but they don't. Listen, I can't explain it. The president ran in 2015 for the 2016 election. He ran on the premise that the economy was horrible and that he was going to get the economy together. And I talked to people who live in Michigan who at the time said our economy is in bad shape and President Trump is going to straighten it out. And I said, no, actually, our economy is in amazing shape. Our economy is in amazing shape. But that's what the president ran on. And there are people who believe that, even though they are among the living, they are literate, they can read for themselves, they can find these things out. So I don't assume anymore that people know what the truth is, even though they are existing with the rest of it. So I know it sounds crazy that we would even have to have a conversation about that, but it is what it is. So if he's not reelected, you say he's going to be elected. You point to the rallies, the enthusiasm, etc., as one of the reasons why at the onset of this conversation. What happens if he's not reelected? Does the country go to hell, Ray?
It's always a tough thing to say. It's always a claim that if the other person wins, that we're all going to die. No, I think that there are things that the former vice president wants to do that would be damaging to this country. But to be honest, even if he gets elected, it's not likely that the Senate turns Democrat. Therefore, he's not going to get much of what he really, really wants to push through anyway. There's going to be quite a bit of control to that because the Democrats are not going to take the Senate. So I don't know if that's the case, that things are just going to fall apart. No, I think there are many things that he wants to do and directions that he wants to take us away from that would be damaging.
Give me one example.
Reversing the tax cuts. That's damaging.
Okay.
Raising the corporate tax rate would be damaging.
So the tax cut, let's talk about the tax cut for a second.
Sure.
So you're concerned for your wealthy friends? Do you make more than $400,000 a year? I don't.
And
I don't make more
and
than
you know,
$400,000 a
of course,
year,
that's a,
and most of
that's
the people watching this broadcast don't make more than $400,000 a year. So when you talk about a
so.
tax cut, we're go
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of
So
course the question
how
is
is that?
based, the question
How is?
the questions
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
the question's based on a false premise because the tax cuts did not just affect people making $400,000 a year plus. That's absolutely false.
They're
So
very
when you reverse
they're.
things, go ahead,
I'm
JC.
sorry. Their tax plans are very similar up until that point, Ray. I've read both of them. I've read both of them.
So if you were to reverse the tax,
They're very
go ahead.
similar. Go ahead.
So if you reverse the tax cuts, which is the first thing that Biden wants to do, then you would be reversing the tax cuts on not just people making over $400,000 a year. Period. So that's based. It's not. It's a false premise. It's just not true. And the other part of it is the corporate tax rate, which raising the part of the reason we've had a jump in our economy, part of the reason we have manufacturing jobs back in the United States that the previous president didn't believe we were going to be able to do, is because of the drop in the corporate tax rate. Raising it would damage those things, and we want people to want to have businesses in the United States. So those are two things that I believe that would be damaging to this country if the former vice president were to become president of the United States.
Okay, I could not disagree with you more, but I respect
Clearly.
your opinion, and that's what I asked you for was your opinion. So I appreciate it. Totally disagree with you based on history. Uh, so
All right.
so so what about the Affordable Care Act? The president said that he was going to release his plan July 19th in an interview with Mr. Wallace. And he said they were going to come out in 2 weeks. That was July 19th. He has not done so right now. The Affordable Care Act, of course, is before the Supreme Court. What do you think of the Affordable Care Act? What do you think of potentially millions of people losing their insurance? We have this is the most amount of people that we've had insured in America since we've been keeping track of that. What do you think of the Affordable Care Act? Do you want to see it go away? Because right now
I
the
think
president doesn't have a plan. There is no
I get
plan.
I get a kick out of this on the screen right now. I'm seeing someone just doesn't agree with me, so they called me a racist. That's unfortunate. No, I think the Affordable Care Act did a lot of things the opposite of what they claimed it would do. And one of the things it did the opposite is it did cause costs to increase. Yeah, another thing that was the opposite of what they said it would do is that the repeated claim, I believe it was 28 different times in different speeches, claiming that we were going to get, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. And of course, that didn't happen either. I think that the Affordable Care Act did not succeed in what it was intending on doing, other than forcing a whole boatload of people onto the Medicaid rolls. So if you increase and make it easier to be on Medicaid, then more people are going to be insured. So that's what it did. I'm not sure you needed an entire mandate and everything to do it. I'm glad the mandate's gone. We'll see about the rest of it. I think that once we make sure that, like the president has done already, we make sure that people with pre-existing conditions are covered, and some other parts that a lot of Republicans were on board with taking out of the Affordable Care Act, and because they were some very straightforward positive things related to that. That once we cover those types of things, we can move forward, and we can work on doing things the president is already doing, which is reducing the cost of prescription drugs and other things related to medical. So I look forward to him continuing with those things, and hopefully we'll put together an entire plan. But these individual pieces are good starts.
First of all, prescription drugs have gone up. Research it. Second of all, there is no. You said the president has done as far as pre-existing conditions. Show me that. That does not exist. Show me that. That does not exist, Ray. That does not exist, and prescription drugs have gone up. Now, I will say this in fairness. I don't know that prescription drugs going up, I don't know that I can't say that that's the president's fault. I don't necessarily agree that that's the president's fault. And I would say that whether it was a Republican in office or a Democrat. But if you research it, you'll find that prescription drugs actually have gone up. But my question to you was should the Affordable Care Act go away? That was what my question was to you.
Yeah, and you asked me. Actually, you were more specific, and in other parts of that, you had questions with me. But regardless, I'm not a fan of the Affordable Care Act, the so-called Affordable Care Act, because
So
I
it should
think
go away.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it going away. I think that they can figure out better ways to get people covered in the United States that don't, cause such drastic increases in our care costs. So I think there are ways to do that without trying to force people to, the forced mandate stuff so that you can pay for it. There are better ways to do things, and I think that we should move forward with figuring that out for sure.
Okay. So in your opinion, the Affordable Care Act should go away. Ray, it's been real as always. I appreciate you.
Yep,
Thanks.
absolutely. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and research some of those things so we can talk again.
Sure.
All right. All right. Peace, man. Take care.
See ya. Yep.
See ya. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate it. Paul hit me up. Thank you, Marcus. Appreciate it. Marcus 505. Marcus says he also owes $410 million to Russia, Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry, your comment moved quickly. I didn't get a chance to finish reading it. Miko Gray, he has no plans for anyone that is poor or middle class. Middle class does not currently exist in America. Not really. We've got the rich and we've got the poor. Tiffany Michelle says, well, let's say this. We will remember in November. Thank you, Tiffany, for that comment. Ray says the president is going to be reelected. We'll see. Marcus says trickle down economics doesn't work. I appreciate that. Carolyn Neal, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Queen. Appreciate you watching. PA hit me up and said, hey, can you come on with Ray? Shamika, great interview. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. So proud of you. And I saw that photo of you a couple of days ago. You look great. Thank you, Queen. Let's see what else. We didn't get to a lot of the comments. Keep them rolling. Keep the comments rolling, would you? Marcus says, I worry about our seniors and those most vulnerable if you vote Trump. Well, that is a group that overwhelmingly voted for Trump, if I recall, in 2016. That is now in favor of Biden. It appears that they are worried too. Now, that's according to the polls. Now, keep in mind, polls typically work. Sometimes they don't work as well as they have in the past, but polls typically are pretty much spot on. Thank you for that comment, Marcus. Any other? Let's see. The tax cuts won't impact anyone that makes over 400,000. I know you meant under. Yes, the plans, Biden's plan and Trump's plan, I read them both. They are very, very, very close until you get to that $400,000. Very, very, very close. Miko says he mishandled COVID. Beverly says his reelection will be like a tsunami. Okay. Beverly believes that he's going to be reelected. We're recording all of this and we're going to reshare this. We'll see if these assessments or these opinions turn out to be true. Miko says he shifted it to the governors. He never takes blame. Joe Rohn, please tell us. Yep, that's Ray. He is he's a political pundit over at 103.7. We've been on the air together off and on over at least the last, 10 or 12 years. But I thought that the interview with him tonight, normally we're just sharing. Normally I'm not interviewing him. So that was a little different today. But I thought it was pretty telling. Thanks for watching, Joseph. Love the fact you both can agree to disagree. That's what America is about. Absolutely. Absolutely, Marcus. Opinions are opinions. but facts are facts. I'm all for opinions, but if you're going to state something as a fact, then you should provide those facts or show us how we can access those facts or something. Pose lied in 2016. Beverly Martin, not towards it, not so much. Pose can change, but there was the margin of error in the polls, and that's how the vote actually. That's how the vote ended up working out. Actually, so margin of error means that if somebody's 3 or 4 points, the race could go either way because that's why they call it a margin of error. She says each state is its own country. It's their responsibility. I don't disagree with you. When the Constitution talks about it, it's like a mini country, if you will. Very good and informative. Thank you, Queen. Tanya Richardson, appreciate you watching. Let's see. Any other comments? We wanted to acknowledge your comments because we really appreciate you taking the time on a Saturday night to watch an impromptu interview with Ray Anthony. All right. There were some other comments earlier that we didn't get to. I wanted to catch some of those. PA, I don't know if you can pull those up. This will be the first election I will vote Democrat as a lifetime Republican. Would love to get you on, Marcus. Would love to get you on sometime so that you could talk about that. Randy Huckabee says, asking what he thinks about Trump not denouncing the KKK in a debate. He said, stand down, but Proud Boys stand by, then attacked Biden to denounce Antifa and anarchy. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see your question earlier. Trump is the reason why 219,000 plus people have died from COVID. Stop making excuses for this man. Beverly Martin says the whole system is racist. How it's set up. I know a lot of people who will not disagree with you on that, Beverly Martin. The numbers are crazy in Wisconsin, little bro. Absolutely correct. That is a fact. And Carolyn says, I'm so sick and tired of Trumpers making excuses for this racist man, and 45 didn't have the COVID. You don't think, sis, he had the COVID? You don't think he had it? Did you see Chris Christie's comment, his statement that he made about having had COVID and the fact that he should have had on a mask and all that stuff, and how he was sick in ICU for a week? Yes, please, let's talk about the unemployment numbers that have more than doubled in the last year. That is an absolute fact. The president did say that he said that the third quarter was going to come back strong. And that's what he said. He said we were going to be back by the third quarter. Tracy Nichols, Beverly Martin, we are doing our best to make sure that the polls are accurate for this election. Vote blue. Thank you, Tracy, a.k.a. Patty LaBelle. Deandra McDaniel Watson says, Beverly Martin, if that's the case, then why doesn't Trump? Yeah, I see it. All right. STFU to our governor. Facts are there were several things that the president said in his speech in Muskegon, Michigan that were inaccurate. There were a number of things. I stopped counting the things that he said that were blatantly inaccurate. I think Beverly Martin asked on one of the things, what were some of those things? You can research that. By all means, feel free to do so. They had Hillary winning with the people. Well, Hillary did win with the people by almost 3 million votes. She did win with the people. She did not win in the Electoral College. She did win with the people, and she, I think it was something like 70,000 votes. I know in Michigan, which was the closest, she lost the Electoral College by less than 10,000 votes. Hillary did win with the people in 2016. Carolyn Neal says, thanks for your Thanks for your vote for Biden, Marcus. Okay, he's voting first time. Paul, let's get him on the air. And let me see. Let me read two more comments. Randy Huckabee Dame says no one should be able to be the president who can use their power to make their pockets fatter. He is supposed to be there to deal with policy and procedures that benefit the American people, not just those who fatten his pockets. I think most of us agree with that. Cub 16 says, I am a hardcore liberal, but voting for Trump. Would have loved to have had you share Cub 16 pictureless. I don't know. We question profiles without pictures because we know there's a lot of trolls out there. Not saying you're one of them, but there are a lot of trolls out there. Trump is not to be trusted, period. Nothing but a liar. And anybody who supports him has to be a crooked racist, just like him, or just plain stupid. We have to vote him out. One more comment. Let me see one more comment. We're at an hour now. Any other? Give me one more comment. I like to read comments. This is really what makes it wonderful for me, is reading your comments. And have you seen Wisconsin's numbers recently, Ray? I suspect he's looking them up right now. Tracy French. Joe Rohn says, forget his taxes. Break those numbers down. He keeps spewing for our community. Yes, sir. Anita Bradford, what are his thoughts on an attempt to kidnap the governor of Michigan? Was 45 behind it? You know, that's a good question, Anita. And I had planned to get his take on that, but we were moving so fast. But I definitely meant to ask him that question. If I had seen your comment, I certainly would have thrown that in there. Appreciate it so much. Hey, listen, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. And maybe we'll do this again before the election. Ray says Trump is going to win re-election. It looks like most of you, by your comments, say, not so fast. All right, I'm JC. I appreciate you.